everybody, it's Cam with Hope to Canine Foundation. We have another installment of Fix It Friday here, a quick single question, well, question and a half I'd call it for today. So if you're on the replay, thanks for hanging out and watching, and I'll try to be as efficient as I can. Pardon my cleanup here, I just inhaled half a sandwich so I could stay upright for you. So hopefully I won't embarrass myself with lunch in my teeth. Our question today has to do with, sounds like mouthy puppy, just overall issues of dog being, inappropriate with the leash biting, trying to counter condition. I'm reading the question here and offer a toy, little things like this. So I'm going to dig into this answer and do my best to give you some insights here on how I would approach it. If you're new to the broadcast, we offer free Q&A support like this most Fridays, not every single one of them, but most Fridays. So if you too have a question that you would like me to speak to, please feel free to shoot an email over to our organization. You can email April directly, april@hope2canine.com, or you can always comment on any one of the prompts that goes up. Typically Tuesday or Wednesday, there's a question prompt to invite you to submit your particular challenge or issue that you would like me to answer to. So just so you know, this is free for everybody. If you can't access our board and train program, or you need follow-up support after having trained with us, or you have an adopted dog or something like that, we get all kinds of questions, dog-based business related topics and things. So hey Susan, glad to see you here. I've got your question for today, so I'm glad you're able to catch me live, and that way too, if I have a few follow-up questions for you, you can hopefully provide them. So if you're on the broadcast, do give me an emoji or hey, hello, how are you, happy Friday, what's up, happy Pride, something, so I know you're there, and that we're interacting okay from the text standpoint. So Susan, you had submitted a question asking for correcting mouthing when giving any type of physical praise. You say your puppy is very mouthy, 4 months old. Countering with a toy works during break time, but the physical contact seems to be too stimulating for him, even just a smoothing massage like lower back stroke. You didn't tell me what type of dog this is. Can you give me an answer on the breed, just so that I have that little curiosity satisfied? And then also, what do you mean by break time? You mean when you release your dog after you've been working your dog? That would help me to understand your lingo here as well. Hey Len, what's up? Glad to have you here. Thanks for saying hey. It's your birthday week still, right? Birthday month, birthday week. So, Susan, those questions are still kind of, lingering for me. And then, sorry about the background noise. Leash biting besides redirecting to a toy. I don't feel that a toy is always appropriate when taking him out for a potty break at night or during a training session. What intervention works best? So Susan, the other question that I have is, what are you hooking your leash to? What kind of collar do you have on this dog? So I'm curious the breed, what you mean. Hey Diane, thanks for saying hello from the road. Do you have a car full of dogs still? Probably always, right? So Diane does transport and rescue out of San Felipe. She's a hugely hearted woman doing tremendous work in conjunction with San Felipe Dog Rescue that we've brought some dogs up. 7 pups she's on the road with. Big shout out to you, Diane, for everything you do for the dogs there. It's just incredible. I love seeing your Facebook posts. B-Day month for Len. Yes. Oh, I appreciate that. No problem. Thanks for stopping in. So any hoodle, Susan's going to give me a couple more details, I hope, and then I'll be able to speak to this more clearly. Diesel 70% Amstaff, 20% Husky. Oh my God, Susan, what have you done? Why this dog? I am not surprised by anything you've told me about his behavior after you just told me his breed. Not surprised at all. Not surprised at all. And I'll tell you what, you need to start shutting that shit down pretty significantly. So my follow-up question had been, what are you clipping your leash to? What kind of collar are you using? And then I'll answer for the physical touch and the leash biting. This is a high drive dog. This is a easily overstimulated dog. Both of those breeds tend to be extra mouthy. I have a client, lovely client with a husky all last year. They got her in bright and early as a pup and started her in puppy board and train program with early intervention, and all of that was ideal and wonderful, and she was still incredibly difficult. Very mouthy dog in the beginning, very difficult to break that habit, just more so than most. But in any event, you have drive, and you have slip collar leash, sometimes other times a prong with a regular nylon. Okay. Any reason why you go back and forth between the two, and do you notice one works better for you than the other? Because my suspicion is that you need to be consistent with a prong collar at this point. That's a big enough, hardy enough dog that and the motivation that you're running into from the dog's behavior, meaning it's consistent, it's, overwhelming you at times, you're struggling to redirect it. It needs to be, corrected. There needs to be a balance between here's when you do bite, here's what you do bite, but also knock that shit off. Don't put your teeth on me when we're going out to go to the bathroom. Know what I mean? And so I think at this age, and based on the behavior history that's already accumulated now, this would be consistency issue, and really putting, maybe that 2.25 prong collar on, checking that dog right when they come out of the crate, making sure that you're doing a really clear and consistent threshold accountability exercise, so the dog is not rushing out of the crate, the puppy is getting dressed and coming out calmly. And then you're going to have a calmer state of mind immediately in that context to move through the house, go out the next doorway, be out to go to the bathroom, et cetera, et cetera. But if you switch back and forth between those two things, and I see it here with a cattle dog pup that I have in board and train right now, I made that mistake, honestly, a couple of nights. She's only been here 1 week, but I've learned a lot about her in a short period of time, and she's real tough, and I also think maybe not cognitively all there. But switching back and forth creates confusion. It just does. It creates confusion for the dog. There is an inconsistency that promotes, they're presuming with a slip lead, for example, that they can take off like a lightning bolt and be more zipped up and bouncy. And same thing with having the dog off leash. So I was letting this dog out to play because she's social, and it was undermining my credibility when it was time to work. So the reality is she's here to learn, she's here to work, she's not here to socialize because that's not her issue. So the scale has to tip in a different direction in order for me to maintain, calmness with her and leverage and consistent messaging. So thought that the prong so consistently could become desensitizing. No, it's totally not accurate. Does it mean that the prong will always be the thing that will always be enough? No. And that's because the puppy's going to grow, and the puppy's confidence is going to go up, and his clarity about you is going to increase. He's going to know, the energy and emotionality around how you communicate with him, and whether you feel calm and assertive and confident in your communications and your corrections, more importantly. So will the prong always work? No, because it has a volume limitation, right? If we think about our dog's brains as, being MTV or Masterpiece Theater, if you need to cut through MTV noise, if you come home to a teenager listening to heavy metal and you're calling and calling for them from a different floor of the house, trying to get their attention, it's not going to work. You need a higher volume. I think of collars that way. Collars really allow us to adjust volume and intensity of our communication and clarify our communication, cut through that dog's internal noise. So if your puppy is MTV, which they are, you're going to find that the prong collar has a volume range, but it maxes out at a certain point. And that's where a lot of us in the balance community love remote collar, because in the same way that it can increase past a prong collar intensity, it can also go below a prong collar intensity, below the leash pressure even. And that's where we see just this incredible clarity that we're able to provide the dog, timing of pressure when they make a teensy movement and adjustment of their body. It doesn't have to be this leash pulling and maneuvering and manipulating like it did in the old days to clarify positions. We can be on a button creating that feedback for our dog, giving pressure the most perfect moment timing wise to teach them, hey, that step towards the left or the right or off the cot or the bed was the wrong move. That's not the direction you should be going right now. So Your thought there on the prong so consistently would become desensitizing is actually inaccurate. The prong consistently will create more clarity. It will create more accountability. It will create more believability in you because your message is always the same. And what that does is it calms dogs down. There's less anxiety, there's less stress, there's also less opportunistic and attitudinal pursuits, because why? Right? The dog learns it never works. She's always got me held accountable to what she says I need to do. She always follows through on what she says she's going to do. There's no point to me trying these different things to see if they work and experimenting with pushing back and negotiating, because the feedback comes the same way every time, right? So you really want to stay consistent. Part of going back and forth between the two tools is your problem. It's just created that mixed messaging. It's created that window for your dog of believing that it's worth doing the things that they're doing, because sometimes they work. So the other piece that I wanted to speak to about this, though, is, talking about redirecting. I think that because you've got a Staffy in particular, but any dog that has high drive, I think an outlet for drive is really crucial to be fair to our dogs. It's also something that they'll always have, the ability to turn on. Essentially, what they didn't come with was the off switch that they need to be successful in a pet dog world, right? In our home environments where the majority of us are owning dogs and wanting them to be companion animals, dogs have to be able to be okay in their own skin when left alone, or when around stimulus that overexcites them or makes them nervous or insecure. It doesn't matter which side of the spectrum they're on. They need to be able to be chill. And so, the high priority and emphasis on teaching that piece right now, the fulfillment should be its whole own other thing, I think. And so that from a maturity standpoint, your dog has clarity. We're going out to play right now, and being jumpy, bitey, and crazy is okay and expected. And putting the prong collar on is like creating that clarity. Prong collar is on, we're not playing tug. Okay? Hopefully you feel me there. The prong collar is on, we're not playing tug, because that's going to create agitation if you're encouraging the dog to fight through that pressure for the purpose of defense. So if you go on to, the sport work field and you're actively doing protection training with the prong collar on, it's really typically for agitation and control. But the dog understands that we're in the environment where we're both exploding and bringing it back to a focused point. The puppy's too young for that. We don't ask the puppy for control in protection training at 4 months. We're really looking for that explosive defense stuff, and we put them in a harness. We put them in a harness and we create resistance in order for them to be motivated to pull harder, to work harder, to bite harder, okay? So with that said, I want to make sure that when you're offering your dog a toy and tug and redirecting for mouthiness, that it's only in the context of high drive outlet stuff. You're playing strategic tug. You're not constantly putting a pacifier in your puppy's mouth, sun up to sundown, to redirect their behavior. I hope that makes sense. Let me see if I can give another example too. So it's like, if you wake up in the morning and you dress your dog in the prong collar, you take him out to go for a walk and he's bouncy and overexcited, I would correct that, get him back into a calm state, have him finish the bathroom, then put him back in the crate. I would do what I need to do in the morning, fix, coffee, whatever, breakfast, prepare his food. Then maybe I bring him out and I call him around and do some training and reinforcement with his breakfast. And it's a 10-minute session, maybe 5-10 minute session. Breakfast has been consumed, dog's happy, wants to work, he's learning his obedience, basic foundational stuff, he's having fun. Then he goes out, goes to the bathroom, goes back in the crate. Then when I want to take him back out again, I put the prong collar on, I take him out on leash, I correct him if he's jumpy, mouthy, or inappropriate. I do threshold activities with that age of dog. I have them go to the bathroom and I bring him in. Then if I want, I would take the tools off, let him drag a leash, right? So just on the flat collar or harness. And then I can play with my dog. I can give him the toy, I can tug, I can engage him in that activity, I can work on starting to get him off of it on command, and have a 10 or 15-minute playtime, exhaust the puppy, then again, back in the crate. Then later, prong collar on, take him out to go to the bathroom, correct any nonsense. Then maybe he's starting to shape a little bit of place work for a short period of time when I'm able to supervise and return him back to place. You see that I'm not giving that dog a toy outlet, a pacifier outlet at every time I interact with him. I'm teaching him that the majority of time in his life, in my world, he needs to be respectful and polite and self-controlled, right? He needs to have impulse control to have access to the things that he wants. When it's time to be explosive and drive, that's when the tug comes out. That's when redirecting with the toy happens. If you want flashy obedience, you use it for then as well. But it's a question of which way are you trying to go with your dog, right? And what is practical for your day-to-day life and what is clarifying for who he needs to be able to be in the world long term. Great on a walk at heel most of the time with the prong, sits on command in the presence of approaching people or dogs, occasionally tries to bite the leash out of frustration, but that's rare, bites at dragline during play. Totally understandable. You can correct both of those. Especially if the prong is already on. And so that was the other piece of this too, right? Like typically when dogs do that, they're frustrated, and you nailed it. They're getting mixed messages. There's a lack of clarity, or there's arousal and they need a place for it to go. And unfortunately, you need to teach this dog that just because he feels aroused and wants to go into drive when he sees another dog, he can't do that every time he sees another dog or a person, right? He can't be an 80-pound adult dog and looking for the bite every time you pass by something that he's keyed up enough about that he wants to have a release for that. You see what I'm saying? So I would correct it with the prong. I would be consistent at walking your dog always on the prong, not the slip lead. And if you're taking some shortcuts around bathroom breaks, and that's mainly what you're talking about when he wouldn't be in the prong, he's on a slip lead versus going on an official walk, that's an easy fix, right? But if you've taken breaks or you've gone back and forth between the two tools in the context of the walk, then that's even more, logical to me, where he's getting mixed messages and particularly maybe feeling frustrated. The other thing is, instead of redirecting on to biting something, redirect him in a change of direction and maybe do a food reinforcer actually for him staying in position. These are options to teach your dog focus and to reward the behavior that you want without having him be overexcited and drive. That's the conflict that I see for you, is just because, he's used to this doesn't mean it's practical long term, which I think is also what you're feeling, right? And struggling with, because it doesn't always work, and it won't always work. Don't always feel the toy is a problem. I'm just making sure that I didn't miss anything here. Truly, my answer though to the second half of that is you need to correct it. You need to correct it with a prong correction and redirect him. And then, the petting. I knew there was something else. So you had indicated, that he seems overstimulated when you share affection, and even smoothing down, what would be considered not exciting touch, right? Smoothing, massage, lower back stroke. The reality is it's not up to you what your dog appreciates and enjoys or feels comfortable with. And it's really important, of course, to make sure that these are not ever indications of pain, right? If your dog has a torsion or some sort of, or some such thing, they have maybe a pinch, in their back, they need chiropractic, they need acupuncture. If the dog could be uncomfortable in any way, we need to rule that out. It's not likely. It's likely that your dog is just disrespectful and overstimulated, that he's, again, related to everything we've been talking about, that inconsistency, some mixed messaging, some frustration, that he's telling you off and he's overstimulated and frustrated because you're doing that at times where he's not fully fulfilled. He's not tired. So that's really important component. And my answer is don't. My answer is very simply don't. You can work up to this. You can work up to conditioning, relaxing massage. And it's very valuable because your dog needs to tolerate touch, right? Your dog needs to tolerate touch. But I typically do it in conjunction with place. If I teach the dog place first, they own the process of self-soothing and relaxing. They own that process of going into a Zen state and being calm on command. And then I can work with them on physical touch connected to that command. Does that make sense? I teach the dog to place. Place is a protected downstay for an extended period of time where they're learning to just turn off, relax, chill out. And then I can start incorporating more physical touch in, that context. Or with little puppies at 8 weeks, as soon as they come home, I always tell my clients, make sure you do Jello exercises where that dog needs to be floppy, relaxed, tolerant, completely surrendering to being on its back, in your lap, in your arms, relaxed and allowing you to touch and massage it. And this is a process that's very difficult for a lot of puppies if they were not raised by the breeder and handled in the whelping process to condition this particular thing. The other factor is personality and temperament. When we handle a puppy very early on, we can tell if there is more or less dominance. If from a temperament test standpoint, that puppy is going to be more or less amiable to things that make them uncomfortable or ask them to be submissive. It's not quite that black and white ultimately, but it's the easiest way to articulate it. And so with your puppy at 4 months already, this definitely should be part of your process. If you haven't been doing it, make sure that you're flipping that puppy over. You're, enforcing that he allow touching of his feet, his ears, checking his teeth, that he relax fully, in this handling process. And then also combining that concept when you teach place, you'll start to be able to do some physical touch and relaxing massage and some really intentional, supportive and therapeutic pressure on your dog with him learning, I need to just chillax and let this happen. Right now, though, it sounds like it's kind of the beginning stages for you if that's not something that's been a consistent part of your day-to-day training with your puppy. And so don't jump to, 20 minutes of this. But when we teach people, again, in our puppy programs, Jello work is so crucial because you can't wait until this dog is going into the vet at 70 pounds, 80 pounds, 90 pounds. And absolutely giving everyone the finger because you can't examine it thoroughly, the way the vet needs to, or administer things the way that the vet may need to, or grooming, right? Grooming handling is another big one. It really precedes their ability to be successful and calm and comfortable and confident in grooming. So make sure you're doing those things, Susan, because they're going to translate to the relationship overall, where the dog is disrespectful and pushy with you, where he's mouthy out of frustration or attitudinal stuff. And he's young. Most of this is just him not getting the right communication from you. But over time, it builds quite quickly to relationship beliefs, and it becomes a lot harder to resolve. And earn back that clarity. Appropriate response from you when he becomes mouthy during play break. So I'm pretty physical with my dogs. I'm pretty darn physical with my dogs. If a leash correction doesn't do it, and again, the answer to, what is an effective leash correction is if the dog stops. So you're either too soft, too low, too late, right? Would be a common scenario with e-collar corrections we tell people, or a leash correction is the same way. If you're too passive, you're too soft, you're not matching this dog's intensity, which I can bet from experience is significant already, even at this age, just from a breed standpoint. If you correct your puppy and he doesn't stop, you were too soft. It's just not an effective correction. So with a leash and prong on, it's very simple, right? It's a correction of the leash. It's a snap and a correct on the prong collar. The prong collar is designed to be like a bite, like the mama dog correcting a puppy. It should pop and release. It should be a buck that, knock it off. So snap and pop with the prong collar and leash correction. That's your most effective option right now, since you've already introduced the prong collar. Your dog is familiar with wearing it. It's a form of pressure that is more clarifying and appropriate in these situations than just your leash on the flat collar or a slip lead. But you also may have to get physical with your dog, the way that dogs do. right? It could be that you need to give a little pressure tap on the side, down on the flank of the dog. Really surprising pressure, physical touch corrections are extremely effective. When you can surprise the dog, he's not expecting it, he's doing this, and you can kind of reach around and tag him right here. I use 2 fingers typically. Bam, tag him right here. Another option is to go under the chin. And I'm just being real with you. Very simple, quick, effective, surprising little pressure communications and corrections that are similar to how another dog would snap at your dog, right? So if you can get in there with something, no, or no, and it interrupts your dog, that's all you need is that little window. Now you can redirect. Good, let's go, right? The dressage, Jessica has a dressage. So, again, the puppy's in social, playing, being disrespectful or mouthy with another dog, little dressage pressure, little pop on the back end, little gentle, pressure into the dog with the dressage sometimes is enough. It doesn't always need to be a big thing, especially if you haven't been effective and quick and clear with your puppy historically. It might not take very much for him to be like, whoa, who's this now? This isn't the communication I've grown to expect from my owner. All you need is that little window of interruption to redirect, and now you can go back into reinforcement mode. But you have to have the balance of the two. You have to share effective corrections and let that dog know that you have an expectation that he respect your space, that he respect your body, that he not engage in, the type of behaviors that you're describing. Is going to be 1,000,000% easier to squash now than if you dilly-dally about it or you're too soft about it and you have a grown dog and he's still doing it. So, the reality is I'm pretty darn physical with my dogs. It works with puppies specifically. I'm pretty physical with puppies. I want them to understand the same way the mama dog would create immense clarity for them with a really firm correction rather than a whole bunch of naggy soft ones, right? And I appreciate that it works. It's effective. I don't get stuck in these dynamics where a dog is continuing to do something over and over and over again and create problems or get themselves in dangerous situations. So those are a couple of mechanisms that I've used that have worked really well. Again, bam up under the chin, and you got to be quick and surprise them, and it's a firm, correction. Laszlo adores me. He looks at me like I hang the sun, moon, and stars. I did the same thing to him when he was a puppy. Hey, that's not okay with me. Really surprised him. He took a step back and was like, whoa, that didn't work for me. I can't do that anymore. Done. We don't have to have a conversation about it anymore 1,000,000 times. Same thing with my Glenn puppy. It's like you put your teeth in the wrong place and you've been given, clarity and redirected, an opportunity to understand, nope, you got to go over here, and you're still doing it. It's time to be more firm. It's time to be more firm. So those are some options of what you can do, but it sounds like just based on your physical touch from an affection standpoint, you also may have your dog out too frequently. So keep that in mind with puppies. They really shouldn't be out more than they're in their box. The crating needs to take priority because you're trying to allow for that puppy to decompress, learn, grow, process, all the things that are the same reasons behind why infants sleep so much, right? Human infants. They need the ability to learn to build as a top priority that impulse control and calm on command. They need to have a very clear understanding of earning access to you rather than becoming entitled because you bring them home and they automatically are getting tremendous affection and attention before they've earned it. And they just overall need the opportunity to avoid that overstimulated and overtired state of mind where a lot of these behaviors will stem from. So I don't know if this is your first puppy. I don't know if you've had the breeds before. I don't know how much of this is brand new for you or just different than what you're used to with regard to the behavior that you're getting from this puppy. But on the most basic level, I would highly, highly encourage you, if you're not already, to make sure to be using the crate more than you're having your puppy out of it. Have your puppy in it and allow him that space to, really not be overstimulated and not become entitled by being out too frequently and having these arguments with you that you're not feeling confident about correcting. And then if you can, work with a trainer locally who can help give you some perspective. It's so helpful no matter who we are, even dog trainers. It's so helpful to have another person see our handling and our interaction and our corrections and give feedback and support and make sure that they're, as effective as possible. If you're not confident in how to correct a dog, that's a big issue that could, compound for a person as they're raising a puppy. If it's the first time around on a puppy, puppies are real easy to screw up. It's just the reality of it. And so my encouragement to you is give yourself that gift of an investment in having some support and feedback and some perspective from somebody who can come from the outside and just give you encouragement and validation of what path you're on. I don't know if you're local for us or what. So anyway, hopefully this resonates and is supportive for some of you today. Thank you, Susan, for submitting the question. Really appreciate you being willing to put that out there, because there'll be a lot of other people who will relate. When he becomes mouthy during play and break and you do correct him and he doesn't stop, put him away. Put him in the crate. Truly. Teaching him that he gets removed from the situation. He does not get access to you and the toys and the things and the attention and the play if he's disrespectful with it. It's that simple. It really is that simple. All right? So tools on always for control. When it's time to be crazy and play, keep a drag line just in case you need to interrupt and slow something down. Make sure that you understand that you probably will get jumped on and scratched and accidentally chomped on when you're actually playing drive outlet tug with a dog like this. My boxer bruises me all the time. And it's not his fault. When we're in drive, the dog is meant to fight and bite, and they're not responsible for keeping all four on the floor during that activity. That's unrealistic. So just keep that into perspective, okay? You need to dress appropriately. You need to be prepared to manage. That's why a lot of times we back tie dogs when we're doing drive work, so we can control things a little bit better and get them really using their mouth only and not jumping up on the person and doing too much damage or getting too much access during the initial repetitions. So that's an option as well. You can back tie him to something heavy, tease him, flirt with him, let him get the tug, play tug games, and you can still control the space more easily. But if he doesn't, respect when you call it done, or he's overdoing it, just put him away. Just put him away. All right? Awesome, guys. Appreciate you as always. Thanks so much for hanging with me. If you have other questions come up, let's see here. Yes. Email April. She can drop her email for you in here, april@hope2k9.com, and or put them in the post prompts that are generally up each week, okay? Thanks, guys, and I hope y'all have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.